So, it looks like our series of following Jesus in Jerusalem is about to come to an end. And thinking about everything that I have done and reviewing it, I realize that when reviewing not Jesus but Mary, there is some matter of confusion. Also, in reality, there's just not enough details in the New Testament about Mary in Jerusalem. And so after covering some of the sites and a few more that I will cover, before completing this series, I'd like to focus this time just on a comprehensive understanding on the sequence of Mary and Jerusalem. Mary in Jerusalem, yes. When you think of Mary, you think automatically about Nazareth. And I will go up to the Galilee. I'm also planning to vlog up north. But Mary in Jerusalem appears more than you think, at least by tradition. Maybe not so much in the New Testament, but by tradition. And I'm starting here at the site that is automatically associated with one of Jesus' famous miracles. I'm at the pools of Bethesda. Yes, I've already covered this site, and John chapter 5 tells us of Jesus coming to the pools of Bethesda and healing a sick person. And we've reviewed the archaeology of this. How does this relate to Mary? Well, let me grab the camera and flip it to the other side. Here we go. And lo and behold, facing that holy archaeological sites of the pools of Bethesda is a big Romanesque style church from the time of the Crusaders that is commemorating the birth of Mary. Yes, Mary came from Jerusalem. Yes, that's at least what one tradition maintains. And let's take a look inside and try to make sense. What is the essence behind this claim? First of all, I'm recording this at the end of January 2024. The war between Israel and Hamas, unfortunately, is still going on. There are no tourists. But on the other hand, the sites are empty. The sites are all accessible. There are no queues. This beautiful church with this amazing acoustic has nothing but a stray cat that passed here before. And as I said before, this church is devoted to Mary. Here you can see it first in this image of two holy Christian figures, an elder and a child. Usually when you see this, you automatically think of Mary and baby Jesus. Not in this case. This is Mary as the child and Hannah, Anne, her mother. And that is because this church, built some 800 years ago, in the time of the Crusaders, remarkably preserved, because the Muslims didn't knock it down, but rather turned it into a mahkameh, some Muslim school, and then the church redeemed it in the 19th century and got it back. But originally, in the Middle Ages, the Crusaders built this site out of the claim that beneath it is the very spot, here, even the sign says it, birthplace of Our Lady. So first of all, let me take you inside and see what it's all about, and then try to make sense. What makes the Christian world even propose that this could be the spot? Here we go. I'm really amazed that I'm all by myself. No visitors to interfere, no pilgrims to be in their way or in their way. And here is again an image of Mary as Mater Theoi, the barrier of God. Here we can already see her caring for Jesus as a baby, but the spot itself beneath bedrock is claiming to be the actual site of her own birth. So where does this come from? The official Gospels don't say a word about any of this. Okay, the official 4 versions of the life of Jesus, and even Luke, which gives us a very detailed account of the birth of Jesus and Mary and Elizabeth being pregnant more or less at the same time, visiting one another, but it still doesn't tell us anything about the childhood of Mary. So what is it that enables us to make this claim? For this, we need to refer to what's called apocryphal versions. Yes, in addition to the 4 official versions of Jesus, there are also many non-canonical, non-sacred or semi-sacred versions of the life of Jesus. And some of them focus with his childhood, and one of them known as the Proto-Evangelion of James, the apocryphal version of James, tells us the vital information about Mary. Well, Mary had 2 parents. One was called Anna, the other was called Joachima. I see a car reversing there. I hope the sound is still good. And here's where it gets interesting. Joachim was a sheep merchant who lived with Anne in Jerusalem, although he was originally from Bethlehem and Anne was from Nazareth, but they lived in Jerusalem. They provided sheep supply to the temple for the sacrificial activity up on the Temple Mount. And this is where it gets relevant. Ooh, don't want to be run down by the car. Let me switch to the other angle. And this is where it gets relevant to this site. Because as I'm exiting the site, and by the way, I'm passing here by another virgin relating to Mary's birth. Here we go, birthplace of Virgin Mary. This is maintained by the Greek Orthodox, and although now it's closed, I did manage to get in and do a quick video of this site. So both the Eastern churches and the Catholic Church over there claim this site also relates to the birth of Jesus. Again, where does it come from? So Anne and Joachim were dealing with sheep, and the New Testament on its behalf tells us in the Gospel of John that when Jesus comes to the pools of Bethesda, he enters it, and it is near, wait, you ready for it? It is near the sheep gate. So the pools of Bethesda are near a gate. Now here we have a gate. This is the old city walls. I'm coming out right now. Don't want to be run down by the tractor. Let me clear the way. Another car coming out. Never a dull moment here. But as I reverse, take a look. Okay, this is called today the Lion's Gate because of these images, which date altogether to the Mamluk period, but they kind of gave it the name the Lion's Gate. What's interesting to note is that also in the Byzantine period there was a gate here. That gate was named after Stephanos, which is said to be stoned near this area. But in the 1st century there was also a gate. Maybe the gate of the 1st century was the sheep gate. Now, here are 2 interesting facts. First of all, Eusebius, a 4th century historian, tells us, disturbing here people catching a ride. Okay, let me clear the way here. Walk a bit. Here we go. So first of all, Josephus tells us that the New Testament tells us that there was a sheep gate. Eusebius, a 4th century historian, tells us that the sheep gate was used to prepare the sheep for the temple, and it was also next to the pools of Bethesda. And then when I was teaching at the Hebrew University, in one of the classes I had a student who was actually a teenager that lived here in the 60s, and he told me, Danny, when Jordan controlled this area, the Bedouins from the Judean desert would bring their flocks to the Lion's Gate to sell their sheep to the people of Jerusalem. So even in local memory, it doesn't happen anymore. Now you go to a mall or to a butcher, but in the 1960s, people would still buy a whole sheep to make shish kebab out of it later, and the market was right behind me. So if we connect all the dots, we understand why there is a Christian tradition claiming that Mary was a native of this area, a native of Jerusalem, and the house where she was born was next to today's Lion's Gate. The Apocryphal Gospel of James, more than this, tells us also that when she was a child, she was introduced in the temple, kind of similar with the story of Jesus. And when she was 12, she was invited to make the parochet, the embroidery, the screen over the Holy of Holies in the temple, which, if you remember, will be torn when Jesus dies on the Golgotha. So these are very interesting links, although not coming officially from the official Gospels. The next stage will be when Mary joins Jesus to Jerusalem, and she is with him. She's with him here in the Holy Week. I don't think she's mentioned in the Last Supper, but I wouldn't be surprised if she attended it. And then she witnesses the crucifixion. It tells us that she stood next to the crucifixion, and as Jesus is dying, he tells a certain person called John, take care of her, treat her like your mother, and Mary, you treat him like your son. Well, guess what? There are also traditions about this. The more common one is what's known as the 13th station. But let me switch the camera over. So you see the view, and you can already start guessing where am I going to. That also relates to Mary. Okay, the 13th station of the Stations of the Cross. Kind of noisy here. I hope the sound is still working. The 13th station of the Stations of the Cross is said to be marking where Mary stood as she saw Jesus dying on the cross. There is today an image there showing a sculpture of Mary with a sword piercing her body. That is a fulfillment of another prophecy made by a guy called Simon, that when Mary and Joseph came with Jesus as the baby, they went up there to the Temple Mount, and Jesus impressed everyone with his knowledge. A man called Simon said that one day pain will be occurring, that I don't remember the words exactly, but it will be occurring like the light is green, too late, okay, we'll have to wait. That will be like piercing your body, and that is what that image is saying. That is what she felt when Jesus was dying on the cross. Okay, sorry, we'll have to wait here for a minute. This is what happens when you vlog. I'm taking a risk. I hope the police doesn't give me a ticket now. As I'm crossing over, you can see here the old city walls. Here is the site of Stephanus stoning, which is another site that I wish to record. Another interesting tradition relating to events in and around Jerusalem. And so, back to our topic, Mary witnesses the crucifixion, and she is part of the group of people that takes care of his burial, and she will be among the few that will come and see the tomb being empty on the following Sunday. As for the place where she stood, yeah, a bit of hunking. Hunking in Israel is like a basic democratic expression. Yes, so the right to hunk. I hunk, therefore I exist. Everyone has to hunk. Never mind. So, in addition to the 13th station, which most people are familiar with, there's another lot less known site called in Greek the Megali Panagia Monastery, which claims, no, Mary stood here. And I didn't record it, but I actually just visited there. They wouldn't let me record, but they said that if I'll come on Monday, they will cooperate. So hopefully on Monday I'll be able to record this much little known monastery that also relates to Mary in Jerusalem. And then finally, we have the sites that relate to the fate, to the end of Mary, which again we need to change to traditions because the New Testament doesn't give us that detail. The last time Mary is mentioned is in the book of Acts, where it tells us of the disciples getting together, gathering in an upper place, and Mary was with them. Yes, book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 13 to 14. And then what? She's just not mentioned again. It's like the book of Acts, the New Testament doesn't care to tell us anything more. And where details miss, traditions enter the space. And in the 7th century, a pilgrim called Al-Kuf recorded a tradition that Mount Zion is the place where also Mary fell into a deep sleep. A deep sleep, I say, because by Christian tradition, she never really died. Okay, she fell into a deep sleep. And indeed, in the time of the Crusaders, a big church was built on Mount Zion, which was named after Mary. So it seems that we have another stable tradition of Mary in Jerusalem, except that I'm ending this vlog in front of another place relating to the fate of Mary. And this structure, which is just the crypt of a giant monastery that used to be here in the time of the Crusaders, is by another Crusader tradition, the burial site of Mary. First of all, wait, did Mary die? Well, not according to Christian tradition. I said, the New Testament doesn't provide details, but we have traditions. And the common tradition, which is accepted to this day in both the Catholic and the Eastern churches, is that Mary did not die. Instead, she fell into a deep sleep, and then Jesus took her up to the heavens. But this church, built by a queen called Malisenda, and apparently she's even buried here in this crypt, is claiming that she fell asleep. Yes, she didn't die, but her sleep was so deep that the disciples, the early members of the church, thought she was dead, and so they buried her. And where did they bury her? Right here, where I'm going to. Okay, I admit I've already reviewed this site, but now I'm going through it just to sum up the events relating to Mary. Can't believe how empty it is. There's not even a monk here. Unbelievable. Okay, here is the alleged tomb of Mary, but like the tomb of Jesus, it's an empty tomb. Here's a picture that shows it best. The disciples are looking into the tomb, and Mary is hovering above. Okay, she didn't die and resurrect like Jesus. That's only the thing that Jesus encountered. Only he is divine. But being the barrier of God, the Son then takes care of his mother. He took her out of the tomb when she was in something like a deep sleep or a coma, and took her up to the heavens. Okay, and since there's no one here, I might as well go inside and show it to you again. You can see here a clear cenotaph, it's called, a marble plaque from the time of the Crusaders. Notice how the Muslims at some point turned this into a mosque, and this is a mihrab. Okay, but now it's again in Christian hands. The operation of this site is actually an interesting story. It's maintained by both Greeks and Armenians. They swap every day, which is why you have here both images of Armenian saints in Armenian writing, which I cannot read, sorry, and also Greek writing in Greek saints, in this case the disciples, Andreas, Ioannes, Petrus, Jacobus, Philippus, and so on. Wow, that was more successful than I planned. So let's conclude this again. Here we go. Okay, I hope you can see me. Mary was born by Christian tradition next to the Lion's Gate in Jerusalem. She was factually in Jerusalem in the crucifixion of Jesus. And by again tradition, she ended up her life on Mount Zion and or here at the Kidron Valley right next to Gethsemane. These are all the sites combined. Okay, hope you've enjoyed this. And let me remind you again, this is a time of war. I have no steady income. I'm vlogging again to share with you all my knowledge as tourists are not coming in, although the sites are open, the skies are open, but I can understand people are hesitant. And until the tourists show up, until I have my livelihood again, if you wish to be so kind and give me a little contribution, that will definitely incentivize me to continue vlogging. How can you do this? Very easily. In my description, in my first comment, you can see the link to a PayPal account. All you have to do is provide the credit card details, and that's it. Any sum you feel like giving will be most appreciated, especially at these times. And until the next vlog, thank you all, and God bless you.